gentlemen. I'd like to thank you all for coming here today to listen to our argument, debate, questioning whether or not we should repeal the public smoking ban in New York City. And we of the opposition would like to say that the public smoking ban is not a good idea, or that repealing the public smoking ban is not a good idea for a host of reasons. For one thing, health problems. We all are aware of the fact that smoking tobacco in various forms, chewing it, etc., all of them have associated health risks, and the foremost being cancer, but others including shortness of breath and general lack of well-being. Excess expense on addictive substances makes you short on cash, and nicotine can even cause people to gain weight. So it's very clear that smoking in general is not beneficial to society in that respect, with health. And furthermore, there are other associated risks with people who are exposed to this cigarette smoke, not just smoking it themselves, but having no control over the smoke that they inhale in public places such as restaurants. We call this phenomenon secondhand smoke, and we're also aware that this is dangerous to people's health, even more so than those who are actually smoking. So it's very clear to me that if you were in a public restaurant or any public venue and there is someone smoking, and there is a certain health risk for you, even though you might not have any control over that. And of course, there's a good reason. Most people don't smoke, and there are plenty of people who have, say, cystic fibrosis or emphysema or any other number of lung conditions, or say, for example, asthma. And smoking, secondhand smoke, can exacerbate these conditions. Now, if you're in a public restaurant, you're obviously going to feel very uncomfortable around someone who's smoking. I mean, you might make the argument that there's dividing this into a smoking and non-smoking section, but anyone who's ever been into a divided restaurant is pretty aware of the fact that this is pretty much bollocks. It doesn't work. It circulates pretty well throughout the room. So having put forth the fact that smoking is bad for our health, people's health in general, I'd like to also rebut the claim made by the Prime Minister talking about banning smoking as being an obstruction of people's First Amendment rights. And I'd like to say that that does not, that seems like it makes sense until you think about it in the opposite direction. Sure, they don't have the right to smoke in the restaurants. But what about the other people, the people who don't smoke? As I said, most people don't smoke. And restricting their rights, in a sense, by allowing other people to smoke, in a sense, giving them the ability to infringe on other people's rights and desires. I mean, if you're uncomfortable by smoking, or certainly, as I mentioned above, you feel it exacerbates some health condition, you do not want to have people smoke around you. And I don't think that it's fair for other people to be in a position where they aren't able to go to a restaurant, or that they feel uncomfortable in a restaurant where people are smoking. And sure, you could ask them to put out the cigarette, but isn't that the same thing as just saying, well, look, how about we just ban smoking entirely? It seems illogical to have to allow smoking when so many people feel uncomfortable around it. Now, the other fact mentioned by or the other stipulation mentioned by the Prime Minister with regards to the economy and how banning smoking prevents recovery. But then in the next sentence he spoke of how people who are addicted would like to smoke in restaurants. But if they're addicted, won't they want to smoke anywhere, regardless of whether it's in a restaurant or not? So, I mean, really, you're not preventing the recovery. They're still going to smoke in that sense. So they're still going to be smoking the tobacco, and they're still going to go to restaurants. I mean, if they want to go to a restaurant, they can step outside to smoke. Referring to New York City being the leader of cities, I'm sorry. Yes.
If a restaurant patron decided to step outside to have a cigarette, wouldn't they still be smoking in a public place?
That is not under the, according to the public smoking ban, that's smoking in the street, which is not which is not disallowed by the public smoking ban. That's only smoking in public venues such as restaurants, etc. It's still also legal in other places such as certain, I guess, clubs. I'm not completely familiar with the law, but I do know for a fact that it is not legal in, or that it is legal in outdoors. That is. So. Anyway, as I was saying about New York City being the leader of cities and how other cities will follow this, I see this as a good thing. In fact, I mean, as I have established the fact that it's better for our health to have this public smoking ban, and is also better for our health, for people's general well-being and enjoyment of personal choice, that New York City other cities following up with New York City's public smoking ban is in fact a good thing, because it will spread this particular law, which is, as I said, a good thing. About issues on immigration, I don't think that that's a problem, because, as I said, there are other venues which are acceptable, such as clubs, which are not covered under the public smoking ban, and also, of course, private residences and so forth. Now, the last point I'd like to make is a certain measure of is that?
No, you got a minute.
No,
okay.
It started too early. Sorry.
Oh, okay. About the precedents of the court and making a cost-benefit analysis. If you look at the health risks and the prognosis of the general population as a result of smoking, you'll find that there is an increased risk in various kinds of cancer, the foremost being lung cancer. And this cost is, of course, associated in the cost of a public smoking ban. And although policymakers might pay to make a law, that doesn't necessarily mean, and I don't even know if necessarily people have paid to make this law, but the most important issue is the fact that if this does cause an increased incidence of lung cancer, which has been shown to, then you're in fact costing society in general a lot of money, and this is highly regarded as a bad thing. So, I mean, the cost-benefit analysis of a public smoking ban is that it saves our money on public welfare and health, and this is, of course, very clear. And I believe that's all I'd like to say.